I'm not a Scientologist, but I was just watching this video, Peter Overton's infamous interview with Tom Cruise, 60 Minutes Australia. Australia, 60 Minutes has got like 3 million viewers or something like that, some crazy amount of viewership. I would be more concerned with how in the world do they get that many viewership, and they're trying to make in this video make him look icy or crazy or something when somebody interviews with him. What they're seeing there is a man who has boundaries, and he's trying to maintain his private life, and he's trying to keep the interviewer from overstepping the boundary that he's set for himself. That's perfectly reasonable, that's rational. And I can see what he's doing in that video, and that's completely rational. That's not a Scientology thing. That's a person who's having, I mean, what happened was that whenever he was on Oprah Winfrey and he went a little crazy there, um, I think he was just showboating. He was just trying to give his fans what they wanted to see, the excitement that he had inside. But he's an actor, and he's going to try as best as possible, since he's a celebrity, to separate his private life from from what people see on television, because they're going to be lots of press. And I would say 60 Minutes Australia, the way I feel about them, I took every one of their videos and stuck them in my Rock Me Amadeus site, and I sat and watched it for about an hour, and then I said no, and I took them all and I stuffed them in a directory, and they were no longer on my site. And I mean, I'm thinking about putting up the American 60 Minutes and see if I can sit there and watch it for an hour, and if it's something I meld with. But I really kind of, in general, don't like the 60 Minutes Australia. I used to watch them before, and I just keep going back, and I keep thinking, man, these guys are just fucktards. They just like to fuck with people. And I mean, they have good stuff, I'm sure, but I would have to really go through every single video and say, okay, this is okay, this is not, this is not, this is not, this is okay, and I would have to filter it out. I mean, it isn't like looking at RT. I can look at RT and I can see that these guys have values, but 60 Minutes Australia doesn't have values compared to RT. RT has more values than 60 Minutes Australia. That's what I said. A country that used to have communism in it has more values in it than a country that is on an island next to New Zealand, across from Asia. What's their viewership? Who's their viewership? It's the whole internet now. They're finding success. They're apart. Who's doing the over? Who's watching over them? They're. And so I took them off, and I look at their interview with Tom Cruise, and I'm just like, I don't see anything wrong with this guy. Um, I what it sounds like to me is that Scientology is about control, and self control is something I don't have a whole lot of. And he has a lot of self control, and he has a lot of control, and he probably, I don't know what Scientology does in the way of control, because I've developed recently this idea that Jesus didn't want to control the world. Why should I? And so, why should I want to control Tom Cruise? And then so I kind of look at Tom Cruise and see what he's trying to control, and you know they covered Steven Spielberg, who's somebody I respect. I don't know him, but I respect him because I like his movies. And he said that Tom Cruise was a good parent, and he knew him since '83 and said he was a good parent. So he's probably really good at parenting, and he's an actor, and he can do natural acting, which is very rare. Some actors have to do things like I was listening to, I think it was Mary Steenburgen, and she was talking about. Oh no, I don't know if it was Mary Steenburgen or was the guy she was playing opposite of. It was Mary Steenburgen. She was talking about time after time, or no, uh, the time machine one that she played opposite of the guy Herbert, and what is his name? And I don't know if it was him or her that said this, but one of them had a technique of developing tears, and it was these smelling salts or something, and he would put it to his nose, and it would make him tear up. And she says, "Well, that's not natural acting." And it says that's not a good act. It says it works. You know, you don't have to think of something that makes you sad. You just smell these salts, and they make you tear up, and now you're crying. You know, so they'll use techniques. Now, what does he do? Does he think of a time whenever he was sad? Is he empathizing with the character, and then he's developing? So it makes you wonder how he's coming up with this natural acting ability. And so maybe he controls himself, and then he puts all those feelings off in a box, and somehow he can return to them at any time and experience that. And it's kind of like he's managing himself, like he's got a little boy in himself that wants to go out and jump all over the things, and he's keeping that boy from coming out, and he puts him in a box, and then sometimes he lets him out and sometimes he doesn't. You don't know what's going on in people's brains. As I said, people conceptualize things differently. The way your brain works is different. Everybody's different. If you ever had a mind link from one person to another, they would not be able to connect. They'd have to learn to connect. So this may be all we have is what goes on in our mouth, in our ears. That may be the only way. I mean, if you connected directly, it would probably cause infections and all sorts of stuff, and it may not be any better. You know, it may be a little bit faster, but uh, if you get information too quickly, even if, I mean, in a situation that's really fast, I mean, how fast can people really respond? Because their eyes are going to interpret things so much faster than their mouth can. If their eyes are not fast enough, nothing can be fast, because their eyes are the fastest method of interpreting information. You're taking a lot more data in your eyes than you're taking in your ears. Just think about imagery, how much data goes in to an image, and how much data goes into sound. A movie could, in the amount of storage that, MPEG compression, video compression, is 100 to 1. MPEG audio is 10 to 1. And audio, uh, for a video, the amount of video content for any MPEG video that has audio in it, how much of that content is audio and how much is video. And I will tell you that you only need 8 kilobytes per second for the audio to have enough audio. So if you have a 3-minute video that's like 4 or 5 megabytes, that's 3 times 180. Let's see. Did I do that right? So how much do we need for a? What did I say? I say, yeah, 3 minutes times. Okay, wait 1 second. So how much is it per? It's eight kilobytes per second. Is that right? One kilobyte. No, that's if it is. I don't think that's right. 8 kilobytes per second for audio. That's enough to do 128k bit. 128 kilobit divided by 8, you get 8. So it's 8 kilobytes per second for 128 kilobit, which is standard for MPEG audio. For one channel. For two channels, then you need 16 kilobytes per second. And it might not use two channels. It might use one that's jumping between the two, and it's a variable rate, but it will be somewhere between 8 kilobytes and 16 kilobytes per second. So 16 kilobytes times 180, which is 3 minutes, is going to yield about 2 or 3 megabytes. And how much is your complete video doing for 3 minutes? It might end up being about, it's not going to be megabytes. It's going to be like 10, 20 megabytes, 30 megabytes, 40 megabytes. Just store it and see how much, and look at the audio. You can probably get an assessment. Let me see if I can find a video on my desktop, because I've got some. Let's see. I have to do it organized by name. Then I have to find a video. There's a video. So I look at the properties of it. Notes, open with. I think you can, if I need to go into the folder, because this thing's not giving me enough information. On Linux, you can go in and I'm going to CD into the folder, which will be something like this. So go into that folder and go up one folder, and then, oh, I have cap locks on. CD, and we take that folder and drop that there. Hit return CD ... And then if I type in file, and so there's a program on Linux called File, and then I drop in my MP4, which is my video file, and hit return. It will tell me some information. MP4 base. It doesn't really tell you a whole lot of information, does it? I would have to bring it into VLC, but I think VLC will tell me more about it. So let me get VLC up. VLC. That's the general media player. So you bring up VLC and then you drag. This is just a video I made for myself. And I think something I might have. Here's one from the ELO's. So just one of my videos. Oh, I'll just put it up there because it looked like I was singing. So this is. Here's one from the ELO's. So let me go up and look. Album. This is the best album. Help. Of theirs. Lots of good songs. Media. And Jeff Lynne, in his kind of nonchalant, it says, "Oh, I just spent 2 weeks on a yacht and wrote all these songs in like one day." Who's really believing media that information, codec information. It was that same sort of arrogance of his that kind of ruined. Okay, so for this video, video resolution is 5,760 by 2,880. That's a VR 180 video format. That's 5.7K is what they call it, I think. And it's equirectangular projection. Wow, they put that in the video. So that's how you know. Color space, equirectangular, orientation top left, frame rate 29.97, which is an NTSC rate. Why does it have to be NTSC? I mean, we don't use NTSC anymore. Why are you still using NTSC frame rate? I mean, 29.97? Why not 30 frames per second? Why does it have to be 29.97? You know what 29.97 is? That's I guess. Oh, I know what that is. It's the result of a interlaced display with one line missing, where is uh, there is more odds than evens on the display, so it's missing one line, and that's probably the reason why the frame rate is is fractional, is that it's missing all those lines from it. Yeah, I think that was an idea that I had about the frame rate, is that it's the result of missing a line on the display, and so that it does interlace. It handles 60 frames per second in an interlaced manner. The frame rate is 29.97, but it could be higher. It's probably the reason why they use it. I don't know. But it may be because of the MPEG format. It's probably favors the old NTSC format. Sample rate 48,000 bits per sample, 32. Wow. Why the heck would you put 32 bits per sample on an audio channel at 48,000 hertz? They did it. They did it. I mean, shit. 32 bits. You need 4 billion. You need 4 billion amplitude levels. Do you have that? You know what that means? Is that means that you could hear a pin drop. You know, if the audio equipment was sensitive enough to it. Field of view is 80 degrees. So normally the field of view is like 30, or I mean 80 degrees is, wait, that doesn't sound right. Per eye, is it, does that, wait one second, that can't be right. No. Field of view's wrong. Field of view can't be right. Because we're talking about, oh no, if it was 90 degrees per eye, yeah. Or 80 degrees per eye. The combined field of view is going to be a lot more, because each eye is going to, it's one eye is going to see more on one end than the other eye is going to see, and combined together they see a greater thing. But 90 degrees, I don't know. Maybe I don't understand what field of view is. And unlike Beto, I won't edit this out, because this is just my brain working. Because I'm not afraid to show that my brain working, show that I don't know stuff. Because you have to say that you don't know. If you don't say you don't know, then you're setting people up for failure when you make them think that you're perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't know what half this stuff means on here. But you see, it says color primaries, 525 lines. Notice that it's an odd number of lines. That isn't an even number of lines at 60 hertz. See, I said 60 hertz, and it said it's 29.97, and it's 525 lines, not 526. If it was 526 at 60 hertz, then it would be, the frame rate would probably be, if you considered it non-interlaced, it would be 60 hertz. But what it's doing is it's sampling, it's taking a frame at half the resolution, half the vertical resolution. It's taking interlaced frames. It's interlacing, and so it's taking. This is the way the old TVs used to work, is that they would draw the odds first, and then they do the evens, and then they do the odds. But for some reason, they didn't have equal number of evens and odds. I think that what happened was they dropped the even line and used it to make the CRT's magnet move the line up to the corner so that it used that time to get the line up into the corner of the screen and start the next scan. Okay, and so they dropped a line in order to gain that to make that jump. That's what I'm thinking. And so if you take 500, if you take and do 60 hertz, and then you figure in that uh, every every even frame is going to have one less line in it. Or actually, let's see, the first frame is going to be odd, so maybe the odd line is dropped as well as the evens line is dropped. And yeah, something like that. And so there's some reason why the lines are dropped, but I think the frame rate is dependent upon, even though it says it's 60 hertz at 525 lines, the frame rate is going to be lower because you're dropping lines all along. And that's why I think that comes about like that. And it looks like 29.97030, and what that means is it means that it's 30 frames per second, but it drops a few frames. So it's slower than 30 frames per second. It's 29.97. So it drops a frame. It doesn't really drop a frame. What it does is it drops lines. And so it's really 30 frames per second, but it's not a full frame every time. That the frames are the full. So yeah, or something like that. So yeah, I think that's what it is. But it didn't give me any information on how much storage it was going to do for the video and the audio. Damn, I didn't get what I wanted. But yeah, and I don't know what I was talking about. I was talking about. Did I start out talking about like? I started talking out about 60 minutes, and then I end up going into something completely different. Ain't that like me? I just can't keep. I don't have enough control over what my videos are about. It's probably the reason why people lose interest after a minute. They need to have those. I've noticed that people are more interested whenever I am on. I'm on. I'm on topic, and I'm like, oh great. Well, I'm really not into popularity, so um, the people I'm going to get a lot more people that are going to have question marks on their heads, and I'm okay with that. Um, if there, I think I would rather have fewer people who I would have. I've said this before, you know. I'd rather give lots of really great information to few people than to give what people want to hear to a lot of people. I mean, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to pretty much be trying to pander to the entire audience. And David Bowie said this. He said, "Don't play to the gallery," and I'm not playing to the gallery. I'm not going to change the format of how I do my videos to satisfy the audience, which I think is what he meant. Um, if you don't like my content, then you wouldn't be watching my content. It's it's unfiltered, so people can't handle unfiltered information, and it's because I know in the past it's worked for me. I used to do demonstrations of Linux. That's probably what I'll do is I'll probably end up doing app demonstrations on iPads, and I'll just be sitting there talking like I am now, and but apps aren't all that interesting to me anymore. There's a lot of things that are not. And you know, anyhow.